Today we're taking a break from subclass builds to talk about the weapon that I've been chasing most recently. I've been very fascinated with what's probably gonna seem like a pretty weird or odd SMG to many of you. I've been obsessed with trying to obtain the perfect stochastic variable. Stochastic variable was one of my favorite SMGs in year 1 because of the perk Phasemag, which luckily it returned with, more on that later. But yeah, I really want a perfect version of this SMG, and there's a few reasons for that, and they might be pretty niche, to be honest. Even if it is niche though, I still really love this SMG, and it perfectly fits the role I'm looking to fill for an SMG in my build. So a quick background here: when I snipe, I use the Praetor's Revenge. I plan on making a video on this in the future. It's my new favorite sniper, reminds me of the Twilight Oath, and I use Revenant with this, and of course Mask of Baccharis. I love sniping with this, and that means I need a good close range weapon, something preferable to perform similarly to the Last Word, of course, and still give me a lot of mobility. And well, logically that sounds like it would be an SMG, a lightweight one. I very much value the lightweight bonus, allowing me to take my dodge cooldown from 8 to 10 mobility without having to actually invest those stats. It's really important for Baccharis, and I really love having the 6.5% sprint speed bonus. I feel pretty sluggish without it. In addition to the lightweight bonus, this weapon gets elemental capacitor, which was recently updated to work with stasis. And it has a very good effect with stasis that I really am in love with, and it's more reason and more synergy for me to continue utilizing this sniping build I have here that I've been enjoying. While using stasis, elemental capacitor moderately controls your weapon's recoil direction and increases your movement speed while aiming down sights. So according to D2 Gunsmith, the recoil direction stat is improved by +5 with elemental capacitor on stasis, but that's not the main thing that I'm really interested in. I want the strafe speed. And when you're aiming down sights, normally you have a 25% reduction in speed in terms of your movement speed and strafe speed. With elemental capacitor on stasis, that's reduced by 5%, which seems like a small number, but is actually pretty noticeable. To put it in perspective, moving target, which has a similar effect of reducing the ADS movement speed penalty, only does so by 2.5%, which is a very small number, and it's not the most noticeable. So this is actually a lot better. And thank you to Reddit user u/ChristicKnight for providing those really specific numbers on this. So what this does is allows you to get a similar style effect to the Peacekeepers on the Titan, except on another class, like the Hunter or the Warlock. In my case, it's the Hunter. Of course, it's not the same as the Peacekeepers. On the Peacekeepers, it's 25% to 9% penalty only, whereas this is only going down from 25 to 20%. But the idea is still there, and I still think it makes a noticeable enough difference. And considering we're not using an exotic to get this kind of functionality, I'd say it's pretty good, even if it is a lesser benefit, because with this I can not only use Hunter, which is inherently more evasive than the Titan is, but I can also not give up my Mask of Baccharis, which adds to the insane evasiveness, entry ability, and ability to get out of bad scenarios of this build. The other interesting perk on this weapon is Killing Wind, not only because it helps this weapon's lower range scenario because it has low range and low zoom, but it actually, as we learned on a recent podcast I had the pleasure of being a part of, we talked to one of the devs who designed Killing Wind, and he said that it actually does provide strafe speed, and I'm interested to see how that interacts with the reduction in the ADS movement speed penalty of elemental capacitor. I'd imagine you get a pretty fast strafe speed, which is really awesome, and I value that quite a bit with an SMG because it makes it harder for people to land shots on you and easier to track players on a controller, which I play controller. Lastly, the thing I like about this SMG is Phasemag, and this kind of contradicts what I said in my video about the Shayura's Wrath, that I don't like the 600 RPM archetype. I'd rather use lightweights, but this is a bit of an exception. The 600 RPM archetype is a little bit more consistent and easier with higher damage per shot. So it's similar to like the 120 RPM hand cannons, except in SMG form, I guess. This is important on this SMG because every other range boost that you'd get in the same slot as Phasemag is only about a half-meter difference. And the big problem with a low range, low zoom 900 RPM SMG is that you lose a lot of reticle friction, and it's a lot harder to aim with that massive amount of recoil at a target at range. It's very, very difficult and inconsistent. So changing this weapon's archetype from a 900 to a 600 RPM allows you to have a lot better control over the recoil, and that RPM is just overall easier to control, easier to land shots with that range, and as I said, higher damage per shot and is a little bit more consistent in terms of your time to kill. Even though it lacks potential, it really helps this SMG with its biggest pain point, which is its range. But at this point you must be wondering, okay, if you're using a 600 RPM SMG in the energy slot, why are you not just using the Shayura's Wrath? Well, as I mentioned, there are some key differences. Like I said, I love Elemental Capacitor. Having that strafe speed bonus or Peacekeeper-like effect is really interesting to me. Also, I get to enjoy the 600 RPM rate of fire, which helps this specific SMG in performing better while not giving up the lightweight bonuses of helping my cooldowns, like I said, and the sprint speed bonus, which I think is very helpful and important as a sniper to get around the map and take angles quicker. An ideal stochastic variable with decent enough range compared to the high range variant that many prefer of the Shayura's Wrath also has much higher handling, which is important to me as I need to be swapping between that and my sniper as quickly as I can. There's this other weird thing where I think the zoom level of the Shayura's Wrath at 1.7 times zoom becomes a little jarring in closer range. It's great to have that zoom, and I think that it's overall phenomenal. However, when I'm using this primarily as my close or very close range weapon, it gets a little weird to track with and a little bit jarring with that much zoom. So I'm not saying that this low zoom on this SMG is good on the stochastic variable. I'd like it to be a little higher perhaps, but I do like it better for some scenarios than the overwhelmingly high zoom of the Shayura's Wrath. I think that the Shayura's Wrath does a better job as an overall all-around SMG. There's no denying that. It has better stats in many ways, incredible range to give it more versatility, but I think it's best paired with a shotgun. If you plan on using your SMG as your main weapon of combat for the majority of the fight, and you're pairing it with a shotgun or even a grenade launcher, I think that the Shayura's Wrath does a better job. But in this niche scenario where I'm looking specifically for a great close range energy weapon to pair with a kinetic sniper, I think the stochastic variable fits the role a bit better. So I've said it many times now, as much as these bonuses that I'm really valuing on this weapon are really niche, I think they come together in a great way as a perfect fit for this sniping loadout with Bacchus and with Praetor's Revenge. And honestly, this SMG holds up a lot better than I would have expected for a year one weapon coming back to the current sandbox in the game with some new perks. It's also nice, even though the grind seems a little unrewarding at times, that you can focus to get this weapon, so you can try and go for a good roll that you're looking for. So perhaps try it out, see if you get a good roll, or if you want to farm for a good roll, try it out and you might be surprised. It's actually really fun and decently effective. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.